Welcome to this explainer. Okay, if you manage properties, you already know the absolute soul-crushing dread of a midnight plumbing crisis, right? I mean, nothing ruins a weekend quite like a mysteriously overflowing sink. But today, we are diving into source material that literally puts an end to those reactive nightmares. We're going to dive into how to completely take the guesswork out of maintenance and transform that chaos into complete control. So, let me ask you this directly. Are drain complaints just totally overwhelming your property right now? You know the ones, slow drains, foul odors, that mysterious standing water. When they happen, they feel like they just came completely out of nowhere, don't they? Well, here's a massive surprise. These so-called sudden emergencies, they actually leave weeks of warning signs. The core thesis from our source material is an absolute game changer here. Plumbing emergencies are highly predictable. Seriously. Gradual buildup, missed inspections, seasonal strains, these are the real culprits. And that means we can spot them and stop them way before the panic starts. Okay, let's dive right into this. We want to completely move away from reactive damage control. That's that endless, super stressful cycle of delayed action, angry tenant disputes, and, those massive emergency plumber bills. Instead, we are shifting to proactive system management. This is the empowered, ironclad defense system we're going to build today, using a structured drain checklist. By consciously shifting your operations from a reactive scramble to a proactive strategy, you are stopping failures long before they ever escalate into a service request. So here's exactly how our preventative playbook breaks down for this explainer. First, the root of drain issues. Second, building the perfect checklist. Third, timing your drain inspections. Fourth, escalation rules and triggers. And finally, communication and tracking success. Let's get to it. Kicking things off with Section 1, the root of drain issues, establishing the baseline. Before we even think about grabbing a wrench, opening a cabinet, or trying to diagnose a specific pipe, we desperately need to establish a solid foundation for your specific building. Think of it like this. You simply cannot spot an emerging problem if you don't actually know what normal looks like for each property you manage. Before ever sending maintenance staff into a unit, you've got to establish this baseline. That means taking the time to track recent complaint dates. It means noting exactly which fixtures are usually affected. Are we talking the kitchen sink, a bathtub, the laundry stand pipe, or maybe the floor drains? And crucially, you have to review past work orders and the property's cleaning history. Having this essential context is basically your secret weapon. It lets your team prioritize high-risk areas and makes diagnosing things so much faster during your actual physical inspections. Once you've got that baseline, you need to identify your primary enemies. And honestly, the vast majority of tenant drain complaints come down to a handful of highly predictable problem areas. The usual suspects. We're talking about grease accumulation slowly choking up those kitchen lines, the ever-lovely hair and soap scum clogging up bathroom traps, organic buildup creating just awful odors in floor drains, and even blacked or improperly routed vents that cause inconsistent drainage. So the absolute crucial point to remember here is that none of these issues just magically appear overnight. They grow gradually over time, and that means they can absolutely be caught early if you're actively looking for them. Moving right along to Section 2, building the perfect checklist, standardizing your defense. Now, the ultimate goal in building the perfect checklist isn't just mindlessly checking boxes. The real goal here is replication. If every single inspection follows the exact same steps, patterns become virtually impossible to miss. Standardizing your defense across your entire portfolio is totally key. You want your team to actually turn on the water to actively verify the flow speed and check for pooling. They need to look closely at overflow points, like are there wet caulk lines or water stains? That's a dead giveaway of a hidden past backup. Physically confirm that stoppers and drain strainers are actually in place and completely undamaged. Inspect those P-traps under the sink for minor leaks, missing caps, or early signs of corrosion. And always check the toilet base seals for subtle seepage. But hey, a physical checklist is only as good as its proof, right? Documenting these findings with clear photos and detailed notes is the ultimate goal here to spot those sneaky, long-term, multi-unit trends. Now, what's really interesting about this next part is how we can take those basic visual observations and turn them into actionable, high-level intelligence. A symptom map provides a highly logical if X then Y diagnostic matrix for your maintenance staff. For example, if you hear persistent gurgling during a test, boom, your checklist immediately flags a venting issue. If you see wet caulk or water stains, you are definitively looking at an overflow backup. And if you have repeated backups happening after just routine use, Well, that confidently points to a partial line blockage that's going to require professional clearing. Implementing this completely removes the diagnostic guesswork for your team. It's a total game changer.
Next up, Section 3, timing your drain inspections, cadence, and risk.
Because let's be real, knowing what to look for is pretty much useless if you don't know when you actually need to be looking for it. You have to build an inspection cadence that is directly tied to your property's specific risk level. Every building doesn't need the exact same frequency. A really great best practice is to align your inspections with existing operational milestones. So do thorough drain checks during scheduled unit turnovers, plan out targeted preventative maintenance windows halfway through the year, and vitally schedule seasonal reviews right after heavy storms. Keep in mind, if you're managing a property with older plumbing systems, exceptionally high tenant turnover, or if your area just got hit by a massive temperature swing or heavy rain, you absolutely must adjust this cadence. Actually, after storms, you even need to verify exterior grading and downspouts, because those can easily mess with your indoor systems.
All right, Section 4, escalation rules and triggers, knowing when to call pro backup.
Even with the absolute best preventative cadence in the world, serious issues are still going to pop up. Knowing exactly when to stop tinkering and call a licensed professional is honestly just as important as running the routine checklist itself. You have to empower your property staff with strict, undeniable decision rules. These are your red flags, your escalation triggers. If you're seeing repeated clogs in the exact same line or fixture across multiple visits, stop snaking it and escalate. If a foul odor stubbornly persists even after standard cleaning, escalate. If water is backing up during totally normal, everyday use, or if you spot visible pipe corrosion, active leaks, or widespread slow drainage across multiple fixtures, listen, these are the definitive signs. Waiting too long after seeing these early warning signs will absolutely turn a manageable, affordable issue into a massive, highly disruptive nightmare repair for your tenants.
Let's move on and see how this builds into a highly structured, fail-safe response plan. It always starts with step 1, the initial tenant report and minor triage. From there, we go to step 2, which is your authorized routine cleaning attempt. So things like clearing a visible strainer or checking a trap under the sink. Now, if that fails, or if a severe escalation trigger is hit, we immediately jump to step 3, professional escalation. This means bringing in the licensed plumbers for a detailed camera inspection or high-pressure hydrojetting. And listen, throughout every single one of these steps, maintaining clear documentation is strictly non-negotiable. Record the timestamps, take photos of exactly what was attempted, and document the plumber's exact findings. This unbroken chain of records speeds up resolution times so much, and it heavily reduces those recurring tenant disputes.
Finally, we arrive at Section 5, communication and tracking success, the human element. We've spent a lot of time talking about physical pipes, symptoms, and schedules, right? But the human element of property management is all about turning your residents into active allies rather than frustrated adversaries. Proactive communication is exactly how you prevent a simple sink complaint from blowing up into a bitter conflict. When you set up a clear, simple reporting pathway for your tenants, you need to proactively guide them to be specific. Ask them directly, when do the symptoms actually occur? Is it only after a really long shower, right after cooking, or is it just happening constantly? Getting tenants to provide this kind of specific symptom timing dramatically improves your team's ability to triage the problem accurately on the very first try. No more wasted, unnecessary follow-up visits. And hey, communicate your checklist mindset to them too. Explain what your team checks and suggest simple resident fixes, like just using inexpensive drain strainers to catch hair and food particles. It makes a huge difference.
Okay, once your standardized checklist and communication pathways are set up, you absolutely must measure the outcomes to make sure it's actually working. You'll want to track your total number of drain-related service requests. Keep a really close eye on repeat complaint rates for the same units. Monitor your average time to repair, and measure the success rates of those professional plumbing interventions. And this brilliantly illustrates the ultimate payoff of everything we've been talking about. Tracking these specific metrics transforms a simple piece of paper into a robust, dynamic system. If certain fixtures repeatedly trigger issues, you just update the checklist to include targeted inspections for those specific spots. Over time, this actively lowers your repair costs, cuts down on operational disruptions, and completely stabilizes the tenant experience. Wow, we have covered an incredible amount of ground in this explainer today, successfully shifting from that panicked, reactive scramble to a proactive, highly organized defense system. But as we wrap up, I want to leave you with one final provocative thought regarding your own properties. Look deeply at your own records. What is your maintenance data from the past year actually telling you about your building's underlying health?
I promise you, the clues are all right there in the work orders. Don't wait for the next midnight plumbing disaster to find out. Take these insights, analyze your data, and start engineering your proactive maintenance playbook today.